Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Circuit de Paul Ricard in the Castille. And today we're racing around 3.6 miles of, well, arguably long straights and a few turns. There's 15 corners winding their way around the long circuit here in the south of France. Today we are situated right next to one of the most major airports in the south of France, and that could give the pilots some aid as they can see the crosswind direction from the wind flags that line themselves, and the turn numbers around the track may be quite easy for them to orientate themselves. Now, for the grid. On the grid, we have Max Chapman for his 6th time, I believe, on pole on the medium tyres. He's joined on the second row by the Williams of Andre Abreu, and behind them is Torben Schutt and Joel Foxall, both of them having really good qualifying sessions. 2 tenths behind and 3 tenths behind for Joel. Behind, again, medium runner and soft runner is Titan and Welsh. Welsh says, "But going on the soft may have ruined his race, but he thinks it's okay." Dylan Hartley and Casper Meach behind. Casper Meach with a not-so-good qualifying position, but behind them is 2 soft runners, Archie Middelfeld and Andre Muster, and Andre, possibly his last race of Red Bull, filling in. Matthew Widdowson in the Haas behind, with Ian Hanmore, both of them in the mid-130s, and behind them is Thomas Salomon and Jay Robinson. Jay Robinson with one of his best qualifying sessions so far, 130.8, and then behind them, Ben Mitchell and Alex Rinser. Alex Rinser and Ben actually getting better times than they had in, than the other guys had in Q2, but still not managed to get through. Josh O'Mara and Adam Forbes in P17, P18, and the 2 drivers who did not start are Harper and Wilson in P19 and P20 respectively. Well, Sam, what a qualifying it was, and what a race today will be. Hopefully, I mean, it's going to be an interesting one. It's overcast here in the south of France. We did say, il fait pleu, il fait pleu, il fait beau, and it could be either. Could be sunny, could be rainy. We do not know what can happen from here, folks.
League, as said in the intro, it's going to be an interesting race. Obviously, different strategies used in qualifying. Obviously, some people starting on the soft. We'll have to see how that affects their race. But it's set to be an interesting one, nonetheless.
Absolutely, and Sam, the veteran of the grid today, he is going to be leading us through this formation lap, telling us what sort of strategies the drivers have been going on.
Well, obviously, in qualifying, those that get through to Q3 start on their Q2 tyre. So I'll run through the top 10. We've got Max starting on medium, Andre starting on medium, Torben Schutt starting on soft, Joel Foxall starting on medium, Titan starting on medium, Robbie Welsh starting on the soft tyre, Dylan starting on the medium, Casper Meach starting on the medium, Archie Middelfeld starting on the soft, as well as Andre in P10 starting on the soft. So in the top 10 alone, there's some different strategies. We've also got some hard tyre runners. We've got Ian Hanmore and Jay Robinson, as well as James Wilson back down in P19, all starting on the hard tyres. They're obviously going to go for a much longer first stint. So what I'm looking for today is obviously those soft runners. How long can they take those soft tyres into the race? Obviously in Canada, tyre wear not as bad as around here in France. So it's going to be very different for these guys, very different conditions. Obviously, as you said, overcast at them. So we'll have to see how the strategy plays out for these teams today. But we've got some incredibly intelligent team engineers, so no doubt they'll be helping with that today.
Yeah, and the drivers here, weaving along. We see Torben Schutt and Joel Foxall almost in a synchronization as they weave for their tyres, but one man at the front, Max Chapman, is just setting the pace. He's just keeping it straight and steady and getting no heat into those tyres. Is that sort of a tyre wear thing, or?
Not too sure, really. Obviously, very much Kimi Raikkonen-esque, I think, with not warming the tyres, not needing to weave. But, you know, Max Chapman is very much used to starting at the front. He's got that down very much. So, obviously, we've got Andre in P2 just behind him. A very interesting sight to see a Williams that far up. And it's good to see Andre in P2. We'll have to see what he can do from there. He's got some real promise for points today. Maybe even a podium, which would be really cool for him.
A sight we normally see is a safety car into the first couple of corners, but I don't think that's actually possible here. With so much runoff into the first couple of corners that just can't happen.
Well, you would have thought not, but we've seen those incidents. I think it was 2019 with Vettel hitting Bottas into the first corner. So anything can happen. You know, these drivers are getting used to racing with each other now. So we'll have to see whether a safety car does come out in the first laps.
Well, the drivers align themselves on the grid. The drivers at the back just getting onto the grid. A couple of them actually disqualified due to contact in the session. But the drivers are now on the grid. They're ready. They're lined up. The lights are coming on. We're going to wait. The lights are going to go out for us, but not for them. They've raced out. The revs are going. It's lights out and away we go here for the start of the France Grand Prix. Who gets away well? That's Wilson at the back getting a really good start. One of the Renaults, Robbie Walsh, is getting a really good start. Down into turn 1, it's the Ferrari, and who's that? That's one of the Alfa Romeos. That's Casper Meech, who's gone wide, and Casper Meech has retired from the session. We said there may be a safety car into turn 1, there isn't. Who's that? There's a virtual safety car into turn 1. Torben Schutt is in P2. Joel Foxall stays where he is, but there was a VSC incident between Casper Meech and one of the cars at the back. I think it was Matthew Widdowson.
Yeah, that was a crazy start. Casper Meech spinning right at the start. Very much what happened in Spain as well, which is a shame for Casper Meech. As you said, Wilson got a great start up into P15, starting from P19, so a really good start from him. Obviously, we're under virtual safety car conditions at the moment. Not quite the full safety car, but we're already lost a driver in the form of Casper Meech. That's a real shame for him.
We'll go ahead and look at that incident later on, but as the drivers exit the virtual safety car, coming down into the first middle sector of the track in the real big turn coming into the sector 2. Who's that at the back? That's O'Mara dropping back, and O'Mara's actually gained an overtake there, even though he's dropped back, and there's another yellow flag. That's Forbes. Sorry, Forbes, not O'Mara. Forbes has dropped back, and oh, that's terrible for him. He's spun, he's gone wide through the first couple of corners, and he's lost his rear.
Yeah, that's a shame for Forbes. Looks like he just got a bit of wheel spin and, yeah, just completely sent it. He's in P18 at the moment behind Nados. Nados had a terrible start. He obviously spun as well. Not as bad a spin as Meech because he's still in the race, but he's in P17 at the moment, so that's going to be a recovery drive and a half for the Red Bull
going down
driver.
the inside of the switcheroo is Dylan Hartley going around the outside of Archie Middlefeld. What a beautiful move that is when the driver on the medium tyres and Nuts is out of the session. His drive will still remain, but he will be gone for now. You see Dylan Hartley's in front of that Renault. What a beautiful move that was into turn 7.
Yeah, very nicely done from Dylan Hartley. I mean, what a great driver Dylan's been in the past few races. Some incredible overtaking already in France on lap 2. So really promising for the rest of the races. In P7 at the moment, we'll have to see what he can do going forward.
We see towards the rear his teammate also eyeing up a move on O'Mara, who's edging back on the points. His first ever points finish last week back in Canada, but this week he's pushing for it again. Once again, he started on the medium compound tyre and back down in P12. He is 2 positions off those points.
Yeah, those points from last week, no doubt, giving him lot of sort of confidence in France. He's in P12 at the moment, as you said, really, really good position for points. He's still got a lot of laps to go. He's on those medium tyres, that optimum strategy for today, so we'll have to see how he does. He's looking good at the moment, though.
Up in the front with the soft tyre runners is Torben Schutt. He's managed to gain half a tenth on Chapman going down that back straight. Just so much of the toe helped him coming down the back straight. Absolutely amazing stuff from him there. But those tyres may die off as soon as he can, and he's got to get as much of a lead as he can to get a lead of this Chapman race.
Definitely, so much has been happening in the midfield that we missed that race leading overtake between Torben Schutt and Max Chapman by the looks of it. But Torben Schutt and Max are still very, very close, obviously going towards the first gun. Max is going to have that slipstream, so we'll have to see whether he can get back past, but it's a good fight at the moment.
The fact Max can keep up with the pace of the soft tyres on the mediums is absolutely amazing. And coming through turn 15, he's just got such a good run, and behind him we see the other teammate of the Ferrari running the yellow medium tyres. The fastest lap there for the soft tyre runner of Torben, and he is going to be in front into lap 3, and the first racing lap properly, he is in front.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be good for Torben Schutt. Obviously, as you said, he's on those soft tyres, so they will not go as long as Max Chapman's medium tyres. But yeah, some incredible pace from Max Chapman to be able to stay so close, considering he's on a compound harder tyre.
Down in the midfield, Salaman eyes up a move down the inside of Ian Hamwell, who's on those white marked hard tyres. He just can't get the pace coming around the inside, and he comes down here through turn 6 and turn 7. He's got a worse run than Ian, but he's going to have no pace going down that back straight chasing him. But O'Mara is tight on his heels.
Yeah, definitely. Amara still very nicely behind. He's going to get that slipstream. Jay Robinson behind him, though, and that AlphaTauri is getting ever closer. Is he going to make a move going down into the chicane after this very, very long straight? I think he's a bit too far back. He's got that DRS. They both had DRS, actually. A bit too far back between those two, but it's getting ever closer between Salomon and Hanmore, as you said.
Jay Robinson's used all of his ERS. If we look at his steering wheel, we see he's got 4% left, and that's only the 3rd lap. He's got to make that last to the end, so unfortunately for him, he's not going to be able to catch O'Mara in any time coming.
Yeah, definitely. He's been very, very aggressive on that ERS usage at the first few laps, but so has O'Mara. He's only got about 10% of his ERS remaining, so yeah, some real conservation is going to be needed the next few laps, because Ritsa and Nados and both of those Red Bulls are getting very, very close. They're going to be eager to get those positions to from those guys.
Now we saw Casper Meech spin out into the first couple of corners. We go ahead and watch the start replay of what just happened there. and it hasn't saved. Why is it not saved? Is it going to work? No, it's not going to work. So we're not going to watch the replay. Unfortunately, we had it clipped, but it didn't save it. But in the meantime, we see Jay Robinson's going wide, and who's that going down the inside? That's Nados. Unfortunately, it didn't save, and yeah, just really unfortunate there for Casper Meach getting knocked out into the first couple corners. Up in the top of the field, Robbie Welsh has had a really good run. He says it's not one of the best tracks for him, but he's going to have to pit early because of those tyres.
Yeah, definitely Robbie Welsh in P4. I mean, that's understandable. As you said, he's on those soft tyres, are much faster than those mediums that most are on around him. Robbie Welsh is a very, very fast driver. As you said, Brant's not his strongest track, but he's catching up to Andre Abreu in that Williams just ahead of him. So he's going to have to get past these guys in order to get the for this strategy to be the best it can be today.
The top 10 is all really, really bunched together. The closest man to the top 10 is O'Mara, who comes down and gets an overtake. Oh, sorry, that's Forbes getting an overtake on Mitchell. I'm not too sure what happened there, but he goes wide into the turn 7 and 8. He may lose the position. But Torben Schutt still retains the lead.
Yeah, very nicely done from Charlie at the front, being very, very calm and collected by the looks of it. He knows how fast Max is, you know, as we said in qualifying on Friday, one of the fastest in the world around this track. So it's great to see him in front of Max Chapman, regardless of the tyre compound. That's going to be really confidence enhancing for him throughout the race.
In the back, we see Joel Foxall, who's going to look up a move on the soft runner of Titan. The softs of the Titan are going to be getting even worse and even worse in quality. And down in P11 and now to P12 is either Archie or Robbie who've come into the pit. Sorry, the driver thing is not working.
Yeah, I think it's Archie's coming to the pits. He's obviously setting the standard. He's going a bit early, I would say. He's obviously starting on those soft tyres. He had to take a time penalty as well. He's gone onto those hard tyres.
As far as our tyre data suggests, it's C1, C2, C3. So the hardest 3 compounds today round on the circuit, de Paul Ricard. Actually, our tyre data suggests that round this track... Oh, and who's that? Who's that? That's spun. That's number 4. That's Robbie Welsh. Robbie Welsh has had a massive spin. He's lost none of his front wing, but that's a huge spin from him, and he's lucky that the wall was just that far away.
Yeah, that was a big spin from Robbie there. He obviously was in P4 before, now he's in P7. He's trying to get around those bollards, but not very successful he was. I think, as you said, he hasn't had any front wing damage, but yeah, it's a shame for him. It's going to really ruin his momentum he had.
As I was saying, Robbie Welsh was the man who... sorry, not Robbie Welsh. There are 3 tyre compounds here today. C1, C2, C3. The 3 hardest. And our tyre data suggests that the hards can actually last 23 laps and will give you 75% tyre wear. So 23 laps from now would take us to the end. And is that a strategy that the other Renault driver is going for?
I think that's probably what he's aiming for. Yeah, as I said, he started on those soft tyres. We're now on to lap 5. He pitted on lap 4. So that would be just about enough. He's going to have to make sure those tyres do not get overused, though, throughout the race. He's going to have to be quite careful down in P18 as well. He's pit, obviously, quite early, so we'll have to see whether that pays out. But it's going to be quite tight, I think. Down
there in Sector 1, Chapman got a move down with the DRS into Turn 1, and he is decidedly in front once again, being held up by the slower tyres of the softs behind him. Torben Schutt and Andre Abreu are both behind him, but they're dropping back significantly. Those tyres need to come off.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is the time in the race that those soft tyres will start to drop off. As you said, we've got the hardest compounds of tyres here, which is just testament to how tyre wear hungry this track is. So yeah, Charlie in P2, lap 6 on those softs is going to start to feel that very soon. He's going to probably aim to box very, very soon.
There's a big lock up there from Joel into turn 7 as Dylan Hartley is hot on his tail, and Joel is actually hot on Titan's tail as well. Titan on the medium tyres are not going to have to come in quite yet, but Dylan Hartley with a cracking qualifying for him up in P6. He's gained no positions, but yeah, he said he felt like he could have been P3 if it wasn't. And who's that? Who's that? Vastin Pro. Vastin Pro, that's Andre who's dropping back. His AI has come on because he's left the session, and that's going to mean Dylan Hartley, Foxall, and Titan are all going to get promoted by 1 position, and Dylan Hartley is now in the firing line.
Yeah, definitely looks like he's had some technical issues, but Dylan Hartley, Joel, and Tyson have all been promoted. Obviously, now we've got a Ferrari 2 and 3. Looks like Charlie's decided to stay on those soft tyres for 1 lap more. That gap between him and Max Chapman is starting to really build now. Obviously, 1.5 seconds, so well without side that DRS range.
Well, Titan's not going to have the DRS down this back straight, which is not going to be good for him, but Joel just can't make up the difference with the DRS either. And into turn 1, it's about half a tenth separating each of the cars. Dylan Hartley just falling back a tiny bit.
Yeah, coming in towards Sector 1. Obviously, these very tricky corners are very, very hard to overtake. Turn 3 and Turn 4 here. You know, it's always impossible to overtake here. It's not a good idea. And Turn 5 here as well. It's an incredibly difficult section on the track. Just really not good for overtaking. But as we approach this very long straight, approaching Turn 8 and 9, Joel Foxhall will probably get that DRS. He's in within that 1 second range. He does get that DRS. I think he's a bit too far back. But Dylan Hartley is incredibly close to the back of Joel Foxhall. But still, bit too far back.
Huge lockup from Joel there into turn 7. That's twice running into the lap that we've seen him, into that middle sector, locking that front tyre into the turn 8, turn 7, turn 9 chicane. And Andre is back, but he is going to be significantly damaged by his AI.
Yeah, definitely. That's a shame. Obviously, the AI are incredibly much more slower than the real-life drivers. So yeah, that's in Pro. Andre Abreu in P6 at the moment after that technical issue, but he will no doubt be able to get back fighting the front of the field.
Down in the midfield, we've got a train of 4 coming, both for Haas, the Williams of Andre, who's going to be taking control in just a second, and the Mercedes of Ian Hanmore up into the points positions. He qualified back down in P12, and he's pushing into the middle of the points.
Yeah, very interestingly enough, is that Ian Hanmore is on those hard tyres, so he's going to be going much longer than the rest of the guys. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting strategy to watch out for Ian Hanmore. Will he go onto the soft tyres right at the end of the race?
Yeah, well, we said they could last 23 laps, but he's really pushing it there, and he's going to be conservative to try and push that one stop if he is going to go all the way to the end on the hards, on the softs rather than the mediums. And we see 2 of the drivers, Forbes and Muster, coming into the pits. Andre of Muster is probably his last race here for Red Bull, as we've been trying to sort out a replacement driver for him. And well, he may be the super sub, he may be the Nico Hulkenberg, and he may come back to win some points, but up in the front of the field, Dylan Hartley is still no closer to catching Joel Foxhall.
No, definitely not. That gap is still pretty much the same between those two guys. It's very close. They're both getting DRS at the moment, which I think is partly the issue, because there's just no difference in speed on the straight. But yeah, it's still an interesting battle. I think going to come down to the strategy now. Who is going to go first with that undercut and potentially gain a massive advantage?
Well, here with the Ferraris, we've got to see a prime example of that. One of them, well, they're 2-3, so they've got a prime position to do an alternate strategy. The driver behind on the mediums can hold the drivers behind up, so Torben Schuck can get a really good, clean pit stop and be ahead as he does come into the pits, and that's probably what's going to happen. We go on board with him as he comes into the pits, and let's see if this is a quick pit stop.
Yeah, I do hope it's a good pit stop. We haven't seen the cleanest of pit stops from Ferrari in real life, but, you know, this is definitely not real life, so we'll have to see if it's a good pit stop, and it looks pretty good from the Ferrari boys as he goes onto the hard tyres.
A couple of seconds there in the pit, and that's all he needed to change his tyres, and yeah, hards to the end. It does look like it will be for Torben Schuck, but he's now coming out of the points. We see James Wilson, the man who is pushing for the last points position, coming round the final turn, and he will not be able to overtake. Just by the barest of margins, he's going to stay in front. So Torben Schuck stays in the points after his pit stop.
Yeah, that's a good first pit stop from the Ferrari boys by the looks of it. And yeah, as you said, that can open up lots of different strategies for his teammate now. Titan is obviously in P2 because quite a significant amount behind Max Chapman, about 5-6 seconds.
Dylan Hartley has the DRS. He had to yield the position to Joel, who stuck the inside. He went down the inside. He probably shouldn't have done it, but he managed to get away scot-free. But Dylan Hartley has the DRS of Joel, and Joel does not have the DRS on Titan. So this is going to be interesting to see which one of them comes out on top by the end of the next straight, because Dylan Hartley is going to have a DRS, drag reduction system, all the way down that final pit straight. But is it advantageous to stay in front and try and overtake on the massive long back straight?
Well, it's a tricky one, really. Obviously, you want to get ahead of the guy in front of you if you're much quicker than them, because you just don't want to be fighting them. You're causing unnecessary wear to your tyre. So I think going into turn 1, you know, as you said, Dylan Hartley's going to have that DRS as well as the slipstream. It's going to be incredibly powerful, and Joel does not have any of that. So I think he'll get a move done going into turn 1 if he gets a good exit, which he looks like he did. He's got that DRS now. We'll have to see whether he can do it.
It's going to be difficult to go down the inside because that's presumably where Joel is going to be. Joel moves to the outside. That means Dylan can go down the inside. Joel will have to back out. Oh, and Dylan gets really close to touching him. I don't think he does actually touch him, and he backs out. Good racing there from them boys, but Joel is definitely right up there, and Dylan is probably going to make a move into the back straight.
Yeah, it got him very, very, very close between those two. But as you said, Dylan, by the looks of it, backed out very nicely. So some really good racing between these two. But yeah, as you said, as we approach the turn 8 and 9 chicane, I think we are going to see a move from Dylan Hartley. As long as he gets a good exit coming out of turn 7, he's got to get that momentum. And the DRS opens now.
Yeah, and Joel Foxall got a really bad exit. We just see how much quicker that AlphaTauri is with full ERS, full Rich, and also the DRS coming down. Dylan Hartley now into the podium position. He's never been finishing in third before. He's finished first, he's finished second, and he said he wants the third podium position because in Canada he was one position up, finishing where Joel Foxall currently is, and Joel may be able to have enough of a run to get him into turn 1.
Yeah, very nice overtake from Dylan Hartley. Pretty textbook stuff going into the chicane. Sent it down the inside. Very nicely done from him. He's just got to keep that position now. He doesn't want to have this consistent fight between him and Joel. Does look like Dylan is slightly faster at the moment, though. So I think he'll be able to retain that position. He's just got to get him Joel outside of that DRS zone.
Whilst ever Dylan is in front, he is in the clean air. So whilst Joel behind will have the DRS, Dylan will have a cool engine, which means he can run rich fuel mix all the time. Whereas behind him, Joel will have to consider about dirty air and lockups, and also about whether his engine can sustain the heat that's coming out of the exhaust of the AlphaTauri in front. But Dylan Hartley is nowhere near P2. He has to keep P3, or Joel Foxall will just be on his tail the entire time.
Yeah, definitely. It's all about conservation in this race. It's a pretty long race, 27 laps. Tire wear is extremely high. So, yeah, there's a lot of conservation, lots of stuff going through these drivers' minds today.
And Joel just losing time through there. And we see, actually, in the back of the camera, Chapman coming round through turn 7 and turn 7 onto that straight before Dylan Hartley and Joel Foxall have even got through turn 3. So we just see how much more pace he's got than these guys.
Yeah, he's incredibly quick. Is Max Chapman around France? He's looking very, very strong in P1 at the moment. He's got a very nice advantage for about 5 seconds, about 5-6 seconds ahead of the Ferrari of Chris the Titan.
Yeah, so go ahead and talk us through what you're doing if you're Titan. You've got to conserve your tyres, but to what extent?
Yeah, Titan's in a bit of a tricky one at the moment. He's stuck in between Max Chapman and Dylan Hartley. Obviously, he's got about an equidistant gap between the two drivers. He's just sort of... it's a tricky one. Obviously, he's going to have to decide whether he wants to challenge Max. We all know how fast Max is around here, so it's going to be a challenge. But I think Dylan Hartley's looking very strong at the moment. As you said, he's going to have that clean air now, so he will be catching up to him, no doubt. We'll have to see what he does. And also, the other thing is about his strategy. He's going to decide when he wants to pit to replace these medium tyres. So it's going to be an interesting one, no doubt. If he goes on to the hards, the pit window is open for the hard tyres. Pitting between lap 12 and 15 is the most optimum time for replacing those mediums and going onto those hards, I believe. So we will have to see whether he decides to pit anytime soon. But yeah, it's a tricky one. But he's keeping those gaps between the two drivers in front and behind him pretty well. So we'll have to see. We're still riding on board, as he approaches turn 8 and turn 9, this chicane. You just see the amount of runoff here at France, really. That's what I'm seeing. So many of these stripes. France is a
sorry to interrupt you, Sam.
Track.
Sam, I'm really sorry to interrupt you, but we have just got a notification from the man who's come in the pits that Williams are going to do a pit stop.
Oh God, it's finally my game crashed. I couldn't do anything. I'm going to go box, and I'm going to try to undercut Racer. See, I can even get a bigger gap on him.
Yeah, so we see bigger gap. He says bigger gap, even more of a gap. I mean, he's already into the points.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be an interesting one for him now, as Titan comes into their pits, as well as Max Chapman. They decided to come on to pit on the same lap, which is very interesting. We'll have to see who comes out first, but no doubt it'll be Max, considering he was there first. And yeah, he goes onto those hard tyres, does Max Chapman as well as Titan. So yeah, they're on the same strategy, pitting on lap 12 right on cue.
Well, is that the strategy then? Because, I mean, there's all 5 of them in the pits. There's going to be no different strategy. I mean, Dylan Hartley's got to stay in front, as Torben Schutt actually makes it into P3. So if he can make those tyres last, he's on a whaler.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, at the moment, Torben Schutt is in P3. Obviously, he pit much earlier, replacing those soft tyres. But that means that these hard tyres are going to be so much older by the end of the race. So it all comes down to whether he can conserve these tyres enough throughout the race, because otherwise the guys around him will be able to overtake him pretty easily.
Well, I doubt this will last more than 2 seconds as we see him going past, but Ian Hanmore in the lead of the Grand Prix.
Yeah, that was a nice sight, was that. Ian Hamilton obviously went onto those hard tyres from the very start. I think this strategy is going to play out for him. You know, at the end of the race, he's going to be incredibly quick. Probably, I imagine, going onto those soft tyres if he can, potentially going for the fastest lap. We'll have to see what he does.
Yeah, very good point for him there, but it's really going to be a longevity game as we see all of the other cars coming in. They've all had pit stops, so what's going to happen there for him?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Now, he's got to get that, he's going to have to, yeah, it's a tricky one because no doubt lots of cars will overtake him because those hard tyres are 13 laps old versus the rest of them being very new for the rest of the drivers. So it's a tricky strategy to manage, but if it plays off, it could be incredibly beneficial. And as I said, he could be incredibly quick at the end of the race to get those overtakes back.
Going around the outside, Robbie Welsh in P8. Double overtake on Robinson and Salaman. Going around the outside, Robinson and Salaman, they were squabbling, trying to keep, well, they were trying to keep together and keeping in each other's in each other's lines, and just round the outside effortlessly comes Robbie Welsh. I mean, clearly battle slowed those guys down.
Yeah, very nicely done by Robbie Welsh, obviously capitalising on the situation, which is so important. Obviously, as you said, those two guys were battling for position, and Robbie Welsh very cleanly just went around the outside and took those 2 places. So very nicely done, Robbie Welsh into P8 now.
Vauxhall is stuck once again behind the Ferrari of Titan. I mean, Titan is now running the hard tyres. Everyone except Muster on the hard tyres. And even though even Ian Hanmore hasn't pitted, I mean, everybody's got to sort of push now, because if they don't, their pit stop will be compromised and they just will lose out so much.
Yeah, definitely. You know, Joel is getting used to being behind this Ferrari, unfortunately, but they've all pit on the same or very, very similar laps, which is interesting. Nobody trying that undercut or overcut for any strategic advantage. So that's very interesting from a viewer's point of view. But we'll have to see how that plays out for all these guys. But that just means that the order is pretty much the same, other than Ian Hanmore and Charlie sneaking up there in P2 and P3.
We look at Hanmore, Wilson, Robinson. They all still have a pit stop left to go, and Hanmore is still being overtaken by the front runner, so he's really got to get the pace on soon.
Yeah, definitely. You know, Charlie and Hanmore pitted very similar no, sorry, that's completely wrong. Yeah. Obviously, Hanmore started on the hard tyres, but Charlie pitted around lap 5, I think it was, onto those hard tyres. So it's a shame to see Hanmore be overtaken, but that is probably to do with the difference in tyre wear.
And Robinson's managed to make a position up, but Salomon and Robinson still squabbling back for the final points positions.
It's very, very close, as Thomas Salomon actually looks like he's going to make an overtake on Robbie going into turn 1. It's very close, but he does get it done. So Robbie obviously losing a bit of time going through the lap, and Thomas Salomon's managed to be able to get that position back on Robbie.
Dylan Hartley with the extra pace advantage of the newer, harder tyres coming down the back straight. He's going to open his DRS flap, give him 7 kilometers an hour extra pace, and just how much pace is that as he goes past the Mercedes effortlessly, and not even a challenge into turn 8.
No, that was quite easy done for Dylan Hartley. A second overtake going into turn 8 and 9. Very nicely done. He's up into P3 now. If he stays there, he could be very strong. And he could even challenge Charlie, considering he's on much newer hard tyres.
Now, it's not often we see a battle back here, but P14, P15, P16, we've got Archie Middlefell, Josh O'Mara, and Ben Mitchell. They're all together within a second, and other than the guys at the front, they're probably the closest on track.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, outside of the points positions, but nevertheless, battles are very important. You know, Josh O'Mara in P15 in that McLaren, very, very close to that Renault of Archie Middlefell going into turn 8 and turn 9 after the back straight. That incredibly long back straight with DRS, of course.
There's a battle here up in P3. Dylan Hartley has managed to get past Hamill, who's come in the pits. Titan and Foxhall for P4 and P5. They're both battling it out. They've gone back and forth for about 3 laps running now, and Joel Foxhall just can't get a run down into turn 1, but surely with the newer tyres, he'll be able to go onto him.
Yeah, definitely looks like Joel has gained a lot of time on the Ferrari in the past few laps, which is really good stuff from him. Obviously, very, very close now between the Ferrari and the Racing Point. He's going to want to get this overtake done because, you know, as we said, the tyre temps, the engine temps are all going to be increasing after being behind a car. Coming through turn 7, he gets a nice exit. He's going to get this DRS. He's in 1 second on the Ferrari. So is he going to be able to get an overtake done going to turn 8 and turn 9? He's still quite far back, I think. He's not going to get it done now.
Go ahead and talk us through his lap.
Obviously, turn 8 and turn 9, that was his best opportunity for the overtake on this particular lap. But obviously, you know, we've got the pit straight where he's going to have that DRS as well, as long as he stays within 1 second of the car ahead, and that is tightened at the moment. He's going to have that DRS going into turn 1. So that's another opportunity for him. But, you know, it looks like he's lost a little bit of time going to the lap, potentially went a little bit too deep into turn 8 and 9, just, you know, really trying to get that overtake done. But as we approach, as we come into sector 3, approaching the last few corners, very tricky and not very easy to overtake around these last few corners, especially this turn 14 corner. You know, as you saw that lock up there from Joel, it's incredibly hard, let alone overtake, as Max Chapman sets a new fastest lap. He's going to get that fastest lap point by the looks of it at the moment, but Joel does get that DRS, but he's still about 7/10 behind that Ferrari. He's got to gain a lot more time on the lap to get that overtake done, I think.
Whilst you were spectating Joel, Dylan Hartley managed to get, well, sorry, not Dylan Hartley. Joel, I can't get my words out. Dylan Hartley's teammate, Jay Robinson, down now in P17. We saw him battling with Salaman, who's currently down up in P6, and he actually got spun. So Jay Robinson was very vocal to his team about why and what happened.
On the McLaren's fucking spun me. This is a disgrace. I need to try and push hard now. Head down.
Head down. I mean, he's P17, but we know how big a difference of a pit stop can make.
Yeah, definitely. That's a shame to hear that McLaren, one of the McLarens, don't know which one, did spin him. I'll have to look at that incident, no doubt, after the race. But he's got the move done on Ben Mitchell, has Jay Robinson going into turn 1. So he's in P15 at the moment. Very, very close behind Josh O'Mara and Archie Middlefeld. And those two are still battling as he gets another move done. Going through turn 6, incredible move there from Jay Robinson. And very nicely done. He's up into P14 already.
Well, he did say to us that he's got to be pushing now, and the newer tyres that meant he had to, he's got newer medium tyres that should go to the end. There's 10 laps remaining, and he only boxed last lap because of the spin that happened, and sporting the red, white, and blue helmet for France, and today he's probably going to be patriotic. He's taking the seat of the man who is Pierre Gasly, and he's behind the man who took the seat of Esteban Ocon, and both of the French drivers are looking to come through here, but obviously we know Jay is actually English from Newcastle upon Tyne, and he's very proud to be so. So as he comes through, he's won it all, and he loses his rear end, but he manages to catch it. Good stuff there from Jay.
Yeah, definitely. He's very, very close now, going through turn 12. Ooh, that back end is not being very nice to him going through turn 12. He nearly lost it again, but just a little bit of time to Archie Middlefeld. He was incredibly close, but he's already gained that time coming through turn 14 and turn 15. He's already very, very close. He's going to get that DRS going into turn 1. Is he going to be able to get that move done? You know, after Archie Middlefeld, there's Robbie Welsh. He's very, very, very far behind Robbie Welsh, about 15 seconds. He goes around the outside. Nicely done. Is he going to get it done in time? I think the Renault is going to back off slightly. Took a lot of the curb in order to miss that AlphaTauri, but nice move done there from Jay Robinson. Hopefully, no competition coming into turn 3, and the Renault
that was
does
so
back off.
close between the Renault and the AlphaTauri coming down the inside. There's just a train of them forming at the back. Well, the alternate strategies are no longer existent. Everybody's on the hard tyres, and it's just a distance. It's just a test of how much you've saved your ERS, basically.
Yeah, definitely. It's all about that ERS and that slipstream, as well as the DRS. You know, Josh O'Mara now is looking at risk from Ben Mitchell in that Mercedes. He's lost a lot of time to Archie Middlefeld in front of him now. So he's going to have to claim that time back to get an overtake done on the Renault.
Yeah, these are all fighting for positions outside the points, but someone fighting for a position inside the points is Titan and Foxhole. They've gone back and forth endlessly for the last couple laps, and into turn 1, Dylan Hartley is very close to Torben.
Yeah, he is very, very close. Obviously, as we said, Torben is on those much older hard tyres, pitted on lap 5 versus Dylan Hartley, I believe, on lap 12. So a significant advantage to Dylan Hartley as he approaches turn 5, which is and turn 6 is where Jay Robinson got that incredible move done on Josh O'Mara, but he's lost a little bit of time coming through turn 6, that rear end, very similar to that of Jay Robinson, and stepping out of alignment. So that won't be good for him as he approaches turn 8 and 9, still a bit too far back to get a move done on the Ferrari of Torben Schutt at the moment, but Dylan Hartley's been incredibly impressive in the race thus far. Some incredible race pace. So I think he's going to have to get that move done. He's just going to get a very nice and clean lap, and he'll be able to get it done going either into turn 8 or 9 or turn 1 with the assistance of DRS.
I've been listening into the AlphaTauri Radio Garage, and once again, they've been talking about how drivers are coming onto the track just a little bit recklessly, and Dylan Hartley has seemed to be praising the driver in front, but once again, Jay is going to be talking about how the people in front need to box, and that's good stuff for him, because it means that he may be able to get in, and Wilson has actually used his box, but is his mediums going to go to the end? He boxed about 4 laps ago.
I think they'll go to the end. Whether or not they'll be in very good condition by the end is another story. Obviously, he's in P13 at the moment. He's managed to get those moves done, so he's looking pretty good. But yeah, we'll have to see whether he makes it to the on those mediums and has still got some pace at the end of the race.
What's your move if you're Dylan Hartley then? Because you're decidedly in P3 right now, but the two cars behind you are battling, so you don't really need to worry about them. But the driver in front is dropping back each and every lap, and there's no way you can catch P1. The driver in front has older tyres. He has newer tyres. Do you sit back and just wait for the driver in front's tyres to die, and do you push them and try and get the absolute most out of them?
It's a very, very fine balance. Obviously, Dylan has still got to get his tyres to the end. He's on those hard tyres, but he's still got to get them to the end. He's obviously about 8 laps left in the race. So, yeah, it's a tricky one, but obviously he's going to want to get that move done on Charlie, because the later he leaves it, the less opportunity he has to get the move done.
Not going to help that the 2 cars behind him are absolutely battling like mad. Titan and Foxhole have been going back to 4th and back to 4th and back to 4th every single lap. And down the inside, Joel Foxhole is going to shoot a move, but he's not going to have enough pace. He's going to go really wide, and Titan's going to get a better exit. Now there's a big gap forming.
Yeah, definitely looks like Joel went a bit too wide there coming out of turn 11. It's a tricky corner and easily to do, especially in the dirty air of the Ferrari in front of him. But Joel Foxhole is behind that Ferrari. He's going to get that DRS into turn 1. We keep talking about it, but it's so important to get the moves done around France. There's lots of straight, but he's got to have that DRS and the slipstream now to assist him to get that move done. He's a bit too far back, I reckon. He's within that 6/10 region, which is still a bit too far back to get a move done, even with DRS.
Wow, someone who's less than 6/10, we keep talking about him. Dylan Hartley, absolute raw pace here. It's really difficult because he doesn't know whether he needs to push or whether he needs to drop back, because under the DRS, he's getting to within 2/10 of the car in front, and he could push definitely for that front position, but whenever he's in front, he's going to have no relief from those tyres down the straight.
Yeah, definitely. It's a very tricky one, and it's looks like he's very, very close coming out of turn 7 there with that DRS. Now, is this going to be the lap he gets the move done going into turn 8 or 9? He's still very close to that Ferrari. He's not gaining enough, though, I don't think. He looks like he was going to make a move, but dip back inside just behind the Ferrari. So still a bit too far back. He's just got to have that perfect lap in order to get the move done.
Talk us through what you'd be doing if you're Torben.
Obviously, Torben Schutt in P2, he's on those older hard tyres. He knows that those hard tyres are much older than Dylan Hartley, so he's just going to be fighting as much as he can to keep that position. But, he knows that inevitably that position will be lost, unfortunately. But that was just because he started on the soft tyres. As we said at the start of the show, that, starting on those soft tyres aren't necessarily the best option. And that's sort of testament here, because he's really struggling on those much older hard tyres just because he has to pit so early to replace those softs. But Dylan Hartley in P3 now is incredibly close to the back of Torben Schutt. He's got that DRS going into turn 1, passing the start-finish line. It's very, very close. He's getting within the DRS range, and he's got the overtake done into turn 1. Very nicely done there from Dylan Hartley. He's got it done very clean, nice and early as well. Hopefully for him, that will be it. No more battling, so we can go to the end of the race and conserve the hard tyres he's currently on.
Well, that's really unfortunate for Torben Schutt, because that means that he is going to have to pull all of the life he can out of those tyres that are already going to be wearing themselves to death. And Dylan Hartley getting in front as soon as he could was absolutely the best option for him.
Yeah, definitely. He's already got a decent advantage now ahead of Torben Schutt. He's got about 7/10 ahead already. Torben Schutt still got that DRS, but within a few laps, no doubt. If he keeps that pace up, he's going to be outside of DRS zone. Looks like Dylan Hartley at the moment, I don't want to cast any sort of curse on him, but he won't be getting that P3. Still in P2, so still yet to get that P3, but there's still 5 laps left of the race. We'll have to see what happens. But he's looking very, very strong at the moment and some incredible race pace thus far.
Already 22 laps in, and Joel Foxhall struggling to get past the Ferrari of Titan. Back in P7, Andre, who we talked to earlier about that early pit stop, he's on the hard tyres, and he's managing to get past Alexander Rinser up in P8, and Ian Hanmore boxing for the medium tyres a couple laps ago, now up into P9.
He decided to go onto the medium tyres, which is understandable. Obviously, the much harder wearing than the soft tyres is going to have a much more longevity on those tyres. So he's going to get those moves done, hopefully, for him. He's in P9 at the moment, obviously, in those points positions, which is really good. It's now just about getting those overtakes done in the last few laps. He's going to have some tyres in some great condition because, you know, he only boxed a few laps ago.
I'm going to go ahead and talk us through one of these laps. So not Dylan Hartley. I keep saying him because he's on my mind. He's up in there in the P2 position. But Ian Hamill coming around the final corner. He gets on that throttle nice and early, up into gear 5, 6, 7, and then finally 8 with the 13,000 revs of that Mercedes W11 engine. And through the first turn, he's going to brake late, so conserving the tyres. But he's actually being a lot more conservative than I thought he would be. He'd be pushing normally at this stage of the turn. He's coming down towards turn 3 and turn 4, and he's going to try and get as close to the car in front, Alex Rinser, as he can, easing on the throttle. If you look on the left-hand side, you see the throttle meter. He's half throttle through here, easing it onto full, now completely lifting there through turn 5, which is an interesting strategy there from Ian. But on that back straight, he's going to have the DRS. His rear wing is now open. We see that by the 2 purple indicators on the wheel. He's passed Alex Rinser by a considerable margin.
Yeah, that was very nice. He's done from a handball. A great lead up to that overtake as well. As you said, go through turn 5, his own unique way of just completely lifting. And, you know, that is the best way for him by the looks of it. And he's got that overtake done on Alex Rintz. So he's up into P8 already, just 2.3 seconds behind the Williams of Andre Abreu now.
Good stuff from the Ferraris to go P3 and P4 right now. Even though that Torben Schutt started on the soft tyres, which was definitely the least advantageous strategy.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, about 3 laps left of racing in the French Grand Prix. That's still plenty of time for the guys behind him to catch up. But if he stays in P3, starting on those soft tyres, which many people thought would not be the optimum strategy for today, he's done very, very well for himself.
Well, that just proves to the haters that shut up before you've seen what's going on the track, because realistically, Torben Schutt is in the podium positions purely because of that strategy.
Yeah, definitely. Very nicely done from the Ferrari mechanics by the looks of it, thinking of that strategy, as well as the driver, of course. You know, that input from the driver is so important, but at the moment, he's got about a 1.2 second disadvantage to Dylan Hartley being in P3. So whether or not he can get that move back done on Dylan Hartley, you know, that's a big ask. As we said earlier, the difference in tyre wear is significant. So Dylan Hartley's got that advantage at the moment, sitting in P2. He's looking very, very strong. But, you know, Max Chapman in P1, a 10-second advantage. You know, he's miles away.
Max Chapman is running away with it, and he may have your vote for Driver of the Day. Remember, you can vote for Driver of the Day, !DOTD in the chat, kencotv.uk/vote. Vote for the man or the person who you thought was the best driver today, the man who showed the most fight, the man who had the best race. Chapman gaining 0 positions, Hartley with the 5, Titan with 1, Salaman with 7, also Rinser with 7, and Wilson with the best start yet. 9 positions gained of today.
Yeah, very nicely done from several drivers today, and lots of people in the points are very deserved of it at the moment. As you said, Wilson starting from P19 up into P10, a great drive from him today. Currently in P10, obviously with 2 laps left in the race.
Yeah, and it looks like, wow, Foxhall may be trying to save his tyres to the very last lap break and just push all that. If we go on board with him, we see he's got almost full ERS, and we can't actually see the fuel from here, but on board from him, we see 70% ERS on that racing point, and the Titan in front is going to be pushing as much as he can. We can see that by that, but it seems as though Joel is trading the ERS for the DRS at this point, using the DRS to try and catch up.
Yeah, definitely. I think this battle is going to come down to the wire. It's going to come down to the very, very last few laps, I reckon. Obviously, we've only got 2 laps left, so it's getting very, very, very tight for Joel Foxhall to take that place from Titan. As you said, they've been battling all race, so who will come out on top will be very, very happy, no doubt.
Yeah, and down in the final points position, a very lonely race for James Wilson. He's managed to come up 9 positions, but we thought he'd have a little bit more challenge there from the closest car behind being Robbie Welsh in P11.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, we had that spin from Robbie Welsh coming into this section of the track, turn 8 and turn 9, which I just think really lost a lot of momentum for him, which is a shame. As we said earlier, Robbie Welsh is incredibly fast. It's an incredibly fast driver, so it's a shame to see him outside the points positions today, but also France isn't one of his strongest tracks, so to be only outside of the points by 1 position is not too bad from him.
And yeah, Dylan Hartley just decidedly in front. He's gained 2 seconds, and I mean, he could just his tire wear will not be near enough to cause a puncture, so that he should just be able to go right to the end.
Yeah, definitely. Dylan Hartley in P2, still within about 10 seconds of Max Chapman, which is an incredible lead for the Alfa Romeo driver. One of the largest I think we've seen in the league so far. You know, as we said, Max Chapman is incredibly quick around this French track, but nevertheless, P2 for Dylan Hartley at the moment on the penultimate lap of the race, looking very, very strong. Some incredible race pace from him today. But I think the most important battle on the track at the moment is between Joel Foxhall and Grizzly Tyson. Who is going to get that P4 position today?
We've seen it lap on lap on lap, and it's pretty much the only focal point for today. Dylan Hartley and these two, and the Ferraris are definitely gonna want to keep their P3, P4. But Foxhall, how much does that 1 extra position mean to him?
Oh, it means a lot. You know, this battle has been going on all race, as you know, so to be able to get on top of that mini battle within the race is going to be incredible for whoever does come out on top. Joel Foxhall is so close, about half a second behind Grizzly Titan in that Ferrari, especially so hard coming through turn 14 and 15, braking as late as he can. But another issue here is that Titan has got up to Charlie, Torben Schutt in the Ferrari ahead of him so much he's also going to get the DRS. So, you know, this is going to be incredibly tough for Joel Foxhall to get this move done now, I think.
Could this be a strategy by the Ferrari boys to try and keep them in the 3-4 position?
Yeah, definitely. I think that could be a very clever strategy if it's one that's been put in place by the Ferrari boys. Grizzly Tyson getting that DRS from his teammate is very beneficial and could be the reason why he keeps that P4 position today. But Joel Foxhall coming through turn 6 here. If he gets a good exit coming out of turn 7, he could get the move done. You know, this is going to be one of his last opportunities. He's going to get the DRS for the very last time on this lap.
Oh no, Joel! He's out of
yeah.
ERS. We look on board with him, and he just can't. He can't catch up. And unfortunately, the Ferrari boys have been they've been superb, and they've outplayed the Racing Point engineers.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's going to be incredibly hard now for Joel to get that move done. Unfortunately for him, it's been a great battle though. One of the best in this race, I think. Really good battle between the Ferrari and the Racing Point. It could happen. You know, that Lando Norris in Austria moment could happen. We'll have to see.
And Max comes through the final sector. He's through turn 12, turn 13, coming towards turn 15, the final corner on this track, and he's actually lapped the only lapped car down past the final straight once again. It's Max Chapman in P1, and behind him, setting the fastest lap on the final lap. Good job there from Max, but behind him, Dylan Hartley, second time for him on the second step of the podium, almost colliding with the pit wall there, coming through. And Torben Schutt Titan, Foxhall in P5. Behind him is Salomon coming through the final couple of corners, but there still could be a move. No, Salomon is still on his own. And then it's Andre, Ian, Rinser, and Wilson. Pretty much evenly spaced from that point. But Dylan Hartley P2 and Max Chapman P1. And unfortunately for Joel Foxhall, he just could not tip the Ferrari strategy. And make sure you vote for your driver of the day, because yeah, that was a good one.
That was a nice race there. Obviously a very much less hectic race than we've seen in the past few. Not many incidents at all, and no safety car other than that virtual safety car in the first few laps. But yeah, some great battles today, especially between Joel Foxhall and Grizzly Titan. But Max Chapman really ran away with that one today, and in the end it was an 11.5-second gap between Dylan Hartley and himself, with the fastest lap being set on the final lap. So an incredible race from Max Chapman once again.
Do make sure you go and vote, and we'll go ahead and get some driver chats in a second. ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, what a race that was, and one of the drivers who we saw with an absolutely amazing battle, and I think possibly one of the best battles of the season was Joel Foxhall. We'll go ahead and talk to Titan afterwards, but Joel, you were so close to the P4 position.
Yeah, Grizzler really put up a great race, and I had a lot of fun with it. He just managed to get on top at the end. We just back and forth, but always within DRS, but pretty much that whole race. He just obviously got that slightly faster car. I had just thought about putting in more tire pressure into the tires to keep them somewhat cool, but obviously they're just always going to get hot. That's just what France is, a fast track and hard on tires, and I guess he just managed to do something better and stay in front. But yeah, it was a really good race. I really enjoyed it.
Well, it seemed as though the Ferrari strategy really played into them with having both cars there available. Obviously, I think we probably would have seen you get past him if you'd have had that DRS on Titan and he wouldn't have had it. But since his teammate's in front, I think he may have pushed back a little bit in order to give the DRS. But do you think you could have done it if you had it?
From the very start of that race, I pulled off the line for the formation lap, and it took me about 10 seconds to get off the line to like 10 miles an hour. I'm not too sure what's going on there, and I was understeer the whole race. So I feel I definitely think I could have done it. I just needed to make the move early. I was just having a habit of going into lean just to cool the engine and just sit behind Grizzly because he was catching up to the lead podium positions in front, and I just thought if I can stick behind him until some of the last laps to get past, maybe I could even get onto the podium. But I needed to make that move down faster on Grizzly, and I didn't do it. But yeah, I think P4 is the best bet for today.
Well, I mean, it was just edging on it, but it was P5 in the end for you, Joel. And unfortunately, I think we could have seen you on that podium if you just had a little bit more consistency and nothing in the terms of you, but I think your pit stop sort of screwed you over. You're a little bit slower than the other guys.
Yeah, I did get held up by the Ferrari of, I think it was Tyson. He was serving us 5 seconds, and it just timed into my pit stop, which made me wait for him. So I came out behind Titan, and Dylan obviously got the overcut into the pits and managed to get out in front of Grizzler. So that played into his hands a bit, and not on mine. But yeah.
Well, it's unfortunate, mate, but you've definitely showed your racecraft today and your skill, definitely.
Cheers.
Sam, have you got anything to add?
No, nice job, Joel, as always. Great battle. I think the battle of the race, definitely. So yeah, good stuff, and hopefully we'll see that going forward.
Appreciate it, guys. See ya.
Cheers, Joel. We'll go ahead and talk to Grizzler Titan now. So yeah, we'll go ahead and talk to Titan. Titan, very good day to you, sir, and welcome to the commentary box.
Yeah, very good day from me as well.
Yeah, well,
Shimon, 5 seconds.
well, we saw that action between you and Joel. You were back and forth for maybe 6 laps going, and just tell us how you felt.
It was pretty intense the whole time. I made a few mistakes, he made a few mistakes, and I think it came down to me running less wings, so I was quicker in the straight line, so he could never take me.
Yeah, it was an absolutely amazing race from you, sir. Just want to talk to you about that final lap decision, as it were. Did your teammate drop back in order to give you the DRS, or was it just you catching up to him?
I think it was me catching up to him in tyre situation because he boxed early.
Yeah, so the soft strategy was looked down upon, but your teammate managed to pull it off, and do you wish you'd have also gone with it, or?
No. I think it's only meant for one teammate. To box lap 8, I think, is the quickest. So I'm glad I went with mediums.
Well, it was good strategy from you, and in the end, it made sure that you were 3-4, and a really good strategy from the Ferrari boys. Have you got anything to add, Sam?
No, definitely not. Great race from the Ferrari team today. So really good stuff. Well done.
Thanks.
And we'll look forward to seeing them up in the top positions later on in this league, because definitely Titan has the pace.
Yeah, definitely. It was a great battle between Titan and Joel today. Really enjoyed watching that one. But also an interesting thing was that what you just mentioned, that Charlie on those soft tyres managed to get ahead of his teammate. So that soft tire strategy that was looked down upon so much actually came out on top today. So that was an interesting one for me as well.
Remember, you've just got a few more moments to vote for your driver of the day. So if you haven't done it so far, !DOTD in the chat. Go and get your vote down before we draw the results. And we'll go ahead and talk to one last person. And the man, actually, we'll probably talk to one more after as well, depending on whether they're here or not. But someone who we heard on the team radio in qualifying talking about the FIA antics, and someone we heard today talking about the McLaren who spun him. Jay Robinson, he didn't have a great race, but he managed to pull it back.
Yeah, I would have done better in qualifying. It would be nicer to get a higher qualifying position. Obviously got spun out twice, but had to fix our front wing. But going on to the mediums really did help push for the grid position after pitting. So I'll take 12th, but could have pushed for further. We just missed out 5/10 on 11th on Robbie, so a little bit gutting, but we did what we needed to do today. Dylan got his points, and it's just a shame that I couldn't get them for the team.
Well, I mean, your teammate managed to get P2, and that's the second time he's done that. And does that mean that you can do that in the future?
Well, looking ahead at a couple of tracks, I know Silverstone, one of my strongest tracks in Abu Dhabi at the end of the year, is one of my strong tracks. It's going to be a good race. Austria, I believe, is the next one, so hoping that we'll get at least maybe pushing for the points next week, but just gotta see what happens now. I think he's in for the Drivers' Championship now.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's up in P3s, 81 points last week, and he's gained. He was in second, so he's gained 18 points this week. So he goes 25, 18, 15, and then so 18 points, that puts him on 99 points. He's only 7 points off P2, so he can definitely do that if he gets a better race. But due to his amazing race today, and you had an amazing race also coming back from being spun at the end of the first couple laps, coming back to P12, we'd like to award you and your teammate the Driver of the Day award.
All right, that means a lot. Thank you so much.
Well done, Jay.
Be proud about that one as well.
Well done, mate.
Cheers.
And ladies and gentlemen, that'll be it coming into the final aspect of today. I'm lost for words because once again, didn't fail to astonish us.
Yeah, definitely not a nice race there in France. Not incredible amounts of action, but we see that quite often in France. But some good battles nonetheless, obviously, between Joel Foxall and Grizzler Titan. So a really good race nonetheless. It was an interesting one to watch strategy-wise as well. So yeah, good race, and looking forward to the next one in Austria.
Austria's coming up, and well, I'm not too sure how it's going to pan out. We know the Alfa Romeos are quick. I don't know who's going to be quicker though, so make sure you stay tuned, and we'll definitely see you sometime soon.